I want you to just close your eyes for a second. Well, assuming you aren't driving or operating heavy machinery right now, of course.
Yeah, please keep your eyes open if you're on the road.
Right, definitely do that. But if you're safe at home, I want you to picture yourself sitting by a window. You have a warm drink in your hands, maybe a dark roast coffee or a steep herbal tea. And you are watching the first heavy drops of rain begin to fall against the glass.
Oh, that is just the most comforting image.
It really is. The sky outside has turned that deep, soft, enveloping gray. The world out there is slowing down, the harsh edges are blurring, and just for a moment, you don't have to be anywhere else. You don't have to do anything else.
You really don't. It's a full pause.
Exactly. Today, we are building a fire, pulling up a chair, and deconstructing the actual science and psychology behind why gloomy weather makes some of us feel so incredibly grounded. If you are someone who feels a deep, almost unexplainable sense of comfort when the weather turns, this conversation is entirely for you. We are right here with you.
It's the perfect atmosphere for what we're exploring today. We are looking at a sweeping, deeply emotional deconstruction of rain. And we have a really fascinating stack of research in front of us for this deep dive.
We really do.
We are pulling from the neurology of scent, a brilliant Harvard Business School working paper on productivity, the history of classical literature, cultural analyses of Indonesian agrarian society, and the clinical psychology of why some of us just absolutely love rainy weather.
And our mission today is simple. We want to understand the mechanics behind that comfort. We are going to figure out exactly why rain stirs our souls, the biological mechanisms that actually literally physically heal our minds during a storm, and how this weather phenomenon connects humanity across time and cultures. So, okay, let's unpack this.
Where should we start?
I want to start with how universally we humans have poured our hearts out to the rain. I was reading this beautiful quote from Langston Hughes in our sources that really set the tone for me. He wrote, "Let the rain kiss you. Let the rain beat upon your head with silver liquid drops. Let the rain sing you a lullaby." Right. It is so incredibly intimate. It makes you realize that rain is never just weather. It is an experience.
It is. And historically, it acts as this profound mirror for the human condition. What's fascinating here is how the brain uses the sensory environment of a rainstorm to project its internal state.
Like a blank canvas, kind of.
Exactly.
Yeah.
When you look at literary history, you see that rain reflects whatever the soul is currently carrying. Take the British poet Edward Thomas, for example. He wrote a poem simply called Rain in 1916. He was sitting in a bleak, freezing hut during World War I, shortly before he actually died in battle.
God, that is a remarkably heavy context. I imagine the rain didn't feel like a lullaby to him at all.
Not in the slightest. For Thomas, that wild midnight rain was a stark, sensory reminder of mortality and human fragility. He projected his trauma onto the weather, so the relentless downpour represented the sheer indifference of nature to human suffering. The mud, the cold, it was a literal and figurative washing away of life.
That makes total sense, but then you see a completely different psychological projection in someone like Elizabeth Bishop.
Right, because her context was entirely different. She was writing from Brazil, wasn't she?
She was, yeah. She wrote Song for the Rainy Season while living in Petrópolis, Brazil. And there, tropical rains are a defining, rhythmic part of daily life. For her, the rain wasn't melancholic or indifferent. It was nurturing. It was protective.
The psychology there is key.
Yeah.
Because her internal state was one of seeking sanctuary, the rain created a sense of intimate shelter. It was a physical barrier that allowed for quiet joy, shielding her house in a high fog, almost like a protective heavy blanket against the outside world.
That dichotomy makes so much sense, and I noticed that exact same emotional spectrum when I was looking through the Indonesian poetry we gathered from the Gramedia Literature Archives.
Oh, the Nusantara perspective,
Yes. The writers there use the imagery of rain to express literally the entire human experience. There are verses where rain represents deep, isolating grief, described as the tears of the sky when you are experiencing profound loss. But then, in the very next breath, rain is the ultimate setting for romantic longing.
That classic cinematic image of sharing an umbrella.
Exactly, or even the simple pure joy of friendship where people are just dancing in the puddles.
Which raises an important question for you, the listener. Think about this. Have you ever been going about your day, perhaps feeling a little anxious or untethered, and then the sky suddenly darkens, the first drops fall, and you feel this sudden, unexplainable wave of nostalgia or comfort?
I know, I definitely have.
Most of us have. And if you have, you are participating in a global, timeless human experience. It isn't just a quirk of your personality. It is a deeply rooted psychological response that generations of people have shared before you.
It is so intellectually validating to hear that, because it's so easy to just think, oh, I'm just moody today. But what I love is that this feeling isn't just poetic projection. There is actual, measurable physical science explaining why rain brings us solace.
Let's talk about the auditory experience first, because that's huge.
Yeah, a lot of people use rain sounds to sleep, and they colloquially call it white noise. But there was a fascinating study out of the NutriCare clinic that blew my mind. They pointed out that rain isn't white noise at all, it's actually pink noise.
That is a crucial neurological distinction. White noise is a static mix of all audible frequencies at equal intensity. Think of a humming air conditioner or radio static.
Right, which can be kind of annoying.
Exactly. It can actually be quite abrasive to the brain over long periods. Pink noise, on the other hand, is a specific acoustic blend where the lower frequencies are louder and deeper and the higher frequencies are softer. It mimics the natural soothing rhythms of the universe.
Like human heartbeats or rustling leaves or ocean waves.
Exactly.
So it's not just a flat wall of sound, it has a shape to it. How does that actually affect us biologically?
Well, studies show that listening to pink noise actually reduces the complexity of your bone waves.
Wow.
Yeah, your brain naturally syncs with these rhythmic lower frequencies. It induces a state of stable, deep sleep and helps people wake up in a significantly better mental state. It acts as a non-threatening, consistent auditory blanket that gently masks jarring, high-frequency environmental noises that would normally trigger your fight or flight response.
It literally smooths out your brainwaves. That makes perfect sense for why a rainy afternoon nap feels so profoundly restorative.
Right.
But sound is really only half the equation, right?
Right.
Because long before you even hear the rain, you can usually smell it coming. And the air actually changes. The chemistry of the oxygen we are breathing fundamentally shifts.
Yes, and that is due to the generation of negative ions. When countless water droplets fall from the sky and physically collide with the earth, leaves, and pavement, that physical impact is so forceful that it actually splits air molecules.
Meaning it creates invisible negative ions.
Precisely.
Wait, so inhaling the air during or after a storm actually alters our brain chemistry? Is that why I feel instantly lighter after a heavy downpour?
That's exactly why. When you inhale that rain-cleansed air, those negative ions enter your bloodstream. Once they're there, they create biochemical reactions that actually boost your body's production of serotonin.
Which is our major mood-stabilizing neurotransmitter.
Right. So inhaling the air during a rainstorm is quite literally a biological treatment for reducing stress and anxiety. It is nature's own ambient antidepressant.
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting now. We have to talk about that smell. The internet absolutely loves the word petrichor.
Yes, that iconic, earthy, unmistakable scent of rain hitting dry soil.
Exactly. Now, we know this is caused by a chemical compound called geosmin, which is released by soil-dwelling bacteria. But why does that specific scent hit us so hard emotionally? Why does it feel so heavy with memory?
To understand this, we need to dive into the neurology of the brain's olfactory system. We're pulling from some brilliant research out of the German Neuroscience Center here. Imagine a macro view of a single raindrop hitting dry, sun-baked earth.
Okay, I'm picturing it.
It kicks up aerosolized molecules of geosmin into the air. When you breathe those molecules in, they hit the olfactory receptors inside your nose. Now, here is the architectural anomaly of the human brain. All of our other senses, sight, touch, hearing, they have to route through a complex relay station in the brain called the thalamus.
They cross multiple synapses and get logically processed before you react.
Exactly. But smell doesn't do that.
It doesn't.
No. Our sense of smell has an almost direct high-speed highway straight to the limbic system. It bypasses the logical processing centers entirely.
And the limbic system is the emotional headquarters of the brain. It houses the amygdala, which processes raw emotion, and the hippocampus, which is the filing cabinet for our memories.
You've got it. Because the smell of rain taps directly into those structures, it triggers what psychologists call the Proustian phenomenon.
Wait, like Marcel Proust and the Madeleine cookie, where just tasting the cake flooded him with childhood memories.
That is the exact concept. It's an involuntary, intense, and highly emotional memory recall. That is why the smell of rain can instantly transport you back to a specific childhood afternoon.
Maybe sitting on a porch or playing in the mud.
Right, bringing all the comfort and safety of that moment rushing back before your conscious brain even realizes what you were smelling. You feel the emotion before you process the sense.
It is literally like a time machine built into the weather. So knowing all this, the brain-smoothing pink noise, the serotonin boost from the negative ions, the emotional time travel of geosmin, I really want to lean in and focus entirely on you, the listener, right now.
Yes, this is important.
If you are someone who secretly feels a massive wave of relief when a bright, sunny day suddenly turns gloomy, psychology has some incredibly validating news for you. You are what is known clinically as a pluviophile, a lover of rain. And as we are seeing, this isn't just a quirky aesthetic preference.
Far from it. It is deeply tied to your psychological makeup. Research from the expert editor highlights 8 specific cognitive traits commonly found in people who prefer rainy days. First and foremost, rain lovers are naturally observant and deeply reflective.
Because rain slows the external hyperactive world down.
Exactly. It creates the perfect sensory deprivation chamber for introspection. If this is you, you likely possess what psychologists call a strong internal locus of control.
Let's unpack that term a bit. Internal locus of control. That means you believe you are in the driver's seat of your own emotions and outcomes, right? So a rainy day doesn't ruin your plans. It just gracefully shifts your internal landscape. You don't need the outside world to entertain you.
That is a perfect way to synthesize it. You feel grounded from within. Because of this, pluviophiles deeply appreciate solitude. And it is so important to differentiate that from loneliness. Being alone with your thoughts on a rainy day is a rich, fulfilling, and intellectually stimulating experience for you, not an isolating one.
And I think that ties into another crucial psychological trait we found in the research: the value of emotional authenticity over forced positivity. Society often pushes this relentless, almost toxic narrative that sunshine equals happiness, and that if you aren't relentlessly upbeat, something is wrong with you.
Yes, the pressure to constantly perform happiness. Rain lovers generally reject that premise. They are comfortable experiencing and sitting with the full spectrum of human emotions. They don't run from the heavy feelings, the sad ones, or the quiet, contemplative ones.
They understand that emotions aren't problems to be fixed or pushed away. They are messengers to be listened to.
Precisely. A gloomy sky matches a complex internal state, and that alignment feels incredibly validating.
So what does this all mean for how pluviophiles actually move through the world?
Well, what's fascinating here is that this emotional acceptance translates into a deeply grounding, calming presence. Rain lovers often embody what philosophers might call a quiet strength. Because they know how to slow down and center themselves, they allow themselves the mental bandwidth to ponder the deep, existential questions about meaning and purpose.
They don't feel the neurotic modern urge to constantly do something.
Right. They are remarkably comfortable simply being.
I really want you, the listener, to internalize that. If you find yourself staring out the window on a rainy day, feeling a quiet melancholy, and just wondering about your path in life, that is a profound psychological strength. It is not a flaw or a sign of laziness. You are giving your mind the expansive space it desperately needs to breathe and process.
It's essential maintenance for the soul.
It really is. But somewhat hilariously, while the rain gives us this beautiful psychological permission to just be, it also creates a massive paradox when it comes to the modern workplace and getting things done.
Oh, the productivity paradox. This is where that Harvard Business School working paper comes in, and the findings are completely counterintuitive. You would naturally assume that a cozy, rainy day makes us lethargic, sleepy, and lazy, while a bright, crisp, sunny day fills us with the energy to tackle our to-do lists.
That's what I would have guessed.
Most people would, but the data shows the exact opposite. Bad weather actually significantly increases our productivity.
I have to admit, when I first read this, I was skeptical, but their methodology was incredibly thorough. They didn't just ask people how they felt. They looked at 2 very distinct sets of hard data. First, they analyzed real-world banking data, right?
Correct. They tracked 2.5 years of daily worker productivity at a mid-sized bank in Japan. We were talking about highly cognitive, repetitive work, processing complex loan applications and data entry. They took the exact completion times of these tasks and cross-referenced them with the daily meteorological data from that exact region.
And what did they find?
They found a clear, undeniable correlation. On days with bad weather, heavy precipitation, low visibility, the workers completed their tasks significantly faster and with greater accuracy.
That is wild. And to figure out exactly why this was happening, they didn't stop at the bank. They brought people into a laboratory setting to isolate the variables. They had participants do data entry tasks under different simulated weather conditions, and even show them pictures of outdoor activities to gauge their focus.
And the mechanism they discovered to explain this paradox is rooted in two concepts: opportunity cost and cognitive distraction. Let's look at the sunny day first. When it is a beautiful, flawless day outside, our minds inevitably wander. We start thinking about the attractive outside options we are currently missing.
Sailing, walking in the park, grabbing a coffee on a patio.
Exactly. Even if we don't consciously realize we are doing it, our attention is divided. The opportunity cost of sitting inside doing spreadsheets feels incredibly oppressively high. This cognitive distraction causes us to lose our flow state, work slower, and make more errors.
So it's not that the sun gives us energy for work, it gives us energy for play. And working feels like a punishment.
Precisely.
But when the weather is terrible, those attractive outside options are physically removed from the table. You aren't missing out on a beach volleyball game if it's pouring rain and 40 degrees outside.
Exactly. And if we connect this to the broader psychological picture, it ties perfectly back to that emotional relief we were just talking about. The rain acts as a psychological permission slip. It completely removes the guilt of FOMO, the fear of missing out.
Because there is nowhere else you are supposed to be.
Right. And absolutely nothing else you are supposed to be doing outdoors, so your brain stops fighting itself.
Right.
You can finally be completely present. You can focus entirely on the task at hand, whether that is executing flawless data entry, reading a dense book, or just truly enjoying your coffee without feeling like you should be maximizing your weekend.
It is essentially nature forcing us into a state of mindfulness by closing all of our other mental tabs. And this idea of nature doing things on a grand, undeniable scale brings us to our final area exploration. We've talked about the individual psychology of rain, but we also looked at how entire cultures embrace and revere the weather.
Specifically, we dove into perspectives from the Budaya Nusantara, the rich cultural and historical heritage of the Indonesian archipelago.
Right.
It represents a beautiful, necessary shift in perspective from a modern, industrialized view of weather. In a highly agrarian society like the Nusantara, rain is never viewed as an inconvenience or a ruined commute. It is an absolute, non-negotiable lifeline.
It is viewed culturally and spiritually as a divine blessing that strictly dictates the rhythms of life. When to plant, when to harvest, when to rest.
Exactly. The survival, prosperity, and literal sustenance of the entire community depend entirely on the monsoon season. Because of this, the culture evolved to deeply respect and integrate with the weather rather than trying to fight or ignore it.
You can literally see that integration in the way people physically live together. If you look at traditional architecture in these regions, like the Joglo houses or Rumah Gadang, they are defined by these sweeping, massively high, sloping roofs.
Yes, they are architectural marvels, specifically designed to shed heavy torrential rainwater quickly, creating these wide protective verandas.
But beyond the brilliant engineering, the rain physically forces human connection.
It really does. When a tropical downpour hits, which can happen suddenly and with incredible force, the day's labor stops. Everyone drops what they are doing in the fields or the markets and huddles together indoors.
Or under whatever wide veranda they can find to wait out the storm.
Right. It forces a shared communal pause. People who might otherwise just pass each other by in the rush of daily life are suddenly sitting shoulder to shoulder, sharing food, telling stories, and simply waiting together.
It's forced community building. And it reminds me so much of that poem we looked at earlier by W.H. Davies, simply called The Rain. He describes hearing the rich, thick leaves on the top of the tree, drinking the heavy rain first, and then passing it down, drop after drop, to the poor, sparse leaves down below.
It is a perfect, enduring metaphor for social justice and shared humanity. The rain is nature's great equalizer. It touches everyone exactly the same way. It doesn't care about your social status, your wealth, or how important your plans for the day were.
It is a shared resource and a shared humbling experience that connects the highest leaves to the lowest and connects all of us directly back to the earth.
Beautifully said.
This has been such a wonderful grounding journey today. We started out looking for a bit of comfort on a gloomy day, and we found out that rain is quite literally a biological symphony.
It really is.
It's a symphony of pink noise that naturally smooths the erratic waves of our brains. It is a chemical reset, flooding our blood with negative ions that physically wash away our stress and boost our serotonin. It is the ultimate atmospheric muse that has inspired humanity's greatest poetry, allowing us to project our grief and our joy.
And ironically, an incredible booster for our cognitive focus.
Exactly, freeing us from the exhausting distractions and FOMO of sunny days. And on a macro level, it is a profound cultural force that physically brings our communities closer together under a shared roof. I am so glad we got to spend this time truly deconstructing this and keeping you company while we did.
It has been an absolute pleasure, and I want to leave you, the listener, with a final, slightly provocative thought to mull over.
Oh, I'm ready.
We have seen how rain connects us to our deepest emotional memories, to our communities, and to our own inner stillness. But consider this. In our hyper-connected, always-on modern world, where the pressure to perform, produce, and optimize never actually stops, perhaps rain is the very last boundary nature has left us.
That's a powerful thought.
What if, instead of viewing rain as an inconvenience or an annoying interruption to your busy life, you started viewing it as an active biological rebellion?
Oh, wow. A biological rebellion. I love that framing.
The next time it rains, consider that nature isn't just watering the earth. It is staging a forceful, mandatory intervention to save you from the exhaustion of the modern world. It is the universe physically stepping in, darkening the sky and saying, "Stop, rest. You have done enough for today."
What a profoundly beautiful way to look at it. Thank you so much for sharing your time and your mind with us today and for letting us be your companions through the storm. The next time the sky goes dark and the universe starts whispering poetry against your window pane, we hope you take a deep breath, listen closely to the pink noise, and let yourself just be.